Well, good morning, and let me get off a screencast there. Okay, this should look familiar to you, for better or for worse. Okay, so it's Sunday night when I'm recording this, and I'm gonna guess that my graduate assistant Samantha is playing this after your news discussion. So I hope that that went well. I've asked her to send me a brief through email just to give me an update on how things shook out, and I hope there was some interesting conversation that stemmed from that discussion. But shifting gears, I want to first talk about what you're going to do for Thursday's class. So first things first, we'll go in here into the syllabus. I'll talk about for now what you're going to do today after you watch this pre-recorded screencast. But for Thursday, first of all, for Thursday, I will be back, barring some unforeseen circumstance. I will be back in the classroom and we will do our live interview with Tom Price. I've talked about this, so I want to remind you because I do want to begin as close to 11 o'clock as we can. Maybe a couple of opening announcements, perhaps, but I've told Tom that as soon as I finish my announcements, we're going to go live and it's real time. So what that means for you, first of all, be punctual, be early even, and then take this as your cue right now, even though I'm not here to physically tell you audibly myself. Use the screencast as a way to get yourself prepped for that. So Tom Price, who is he? You know, some of you maybe have had him in class before. Maybe some of you haven't. So maybe do a little bit of searching, see what you can find out about him. He's going to be talking about a house fire. So chances are good that there might be something already out there about this major news event that occurred at the end of May earlier this summer. So educate yourself, inform yourself so that when we are real time with Tom on Thursday, you know what questions you'd like to ask based on what hasn't already been covered about this. Because what you're going to do is you're going to take live notes. I will be conducting the interview, so I'll have my set of questions, maybe about 15 minutes or so. Then we'll open it up for a question and answer from you to kind of round it out. And what you're going to do then is compose a feature story from the Tom Price interview. And that will be due next Tuesday. So I'm jumping ahead here, but that's what I'm going to have you do as one of your assignments over this coming weekend. And so you're going to need to take copious notes. So what that also means is not only should you be there on time, but maybe early so you can get yourself logged in, get yourself ready so that you're in the best place possible for when the note taking needs to begin. That's on Thursday. And then, as I said, after we finish with Tom, after I give you a couple of pointers, then we'll have our news discussion. So that's still what's in the agenda for Thursday's class. For today, after the screencast, you're going to do, I'm calling it a test, but it's really just a review of past concepts. I want to make sure that we're good and, as we move on, that you've got some of the fundamentals. So that's what you're going to be doing today here in a moment. But between today's class, the 29th, and Thursday, you have another story due. This one's going to tie a car accident, but it's also going to connect it to ethics. And I think that it'll be interesting to see how you as a class handle this. I'll show you the example here in just a second of what the facts are. It'll look very familiar to the robbery story and the truck turnover story that you recently did, but there'll be an added component to this, an ethical justification that I want you to compose. So more on that in a second. I want to first explain why I'm having you do this with pictures. I think you know by now how powerful visuals can be. I get that. I get that you get that. But I really want you to start to struggle a little bit with what we throw out into the public sphere and what we withhold. And so that's really where the ethical justification comes from. I'm going to give you a picture, and this was an actual picture. In fact, this story, unlike the other ones that are just figments of my imagination on paper, this actually happened. And all I've done is repurpose the information and present it to you in a way that you're already familiar. So I'll show you in just a second, but before I do, this is a story I always like to show. This comes out of an Omaha broadcast station, and it is dated, but you talk about the power of a picture. I just think that this is an interesting story to try to prove that point. So there were some college students that went out for a run. They got caught in a hailstorm, and this would have been in April and in Iowa. And this actually wasn't too far from my alma mater, Iowa State. And so, here's the text, told the station in Des Moines that they were driving when they found the students along the road. They tried to hide in a ditch when they were out for a run, but unfortunately, the hail became too intense, and so then they got hit. And boy, did they ever. I mean, okay, so you have a picture here. That doesn't look so bad, right? Well, a little further down, there's a gallery. And, just the power of a picture. You take a typically casual event, hailstorms in Iowa in April, that's pretty commonplace. You know, Severe weather in Indiana in April is pretty commonplace. So how do you make that story stand out? How do you get people to care about it? And we're back to the very first day when we first started talking about the so what factor. Well, one way to do that is a picture. And so here was one that I thought was particularly gripping. This is what the hailstones, what it did, what happened when it hit the flesh of the skin. And I mean, that's a pretty stark image. I'm glad I wasn't those runners. But in any case, I give you this example. This is a little bit out of context from what you're going to be doing. But the whole point is that we have certain responsibilities as public communicators. And I've been slowly bringing this up in our news discussions with you. And, this is yet another iteration of that. There's certain ethical obligations we have. We just absolutely have to consider when we present information to the public. Now, you might say, well, if I have it and I verify and, prove that it's credible, why not use it? And you know what? That's fine. That is one ethical stance on, a given issue. But there are other stances that you could take too. So first and foremost, let me go in to show you this doc that you're going to be using. So again, this is in the, this is in the out of class. Here it is. You'll open this one up. And then what should happen, you'll see, again, the format very similar to what you've already done. I am gonna push a word count on you, force you to be succinct in your writing. You are going to go back to what we had been doing. Another example using a summary lead, inverted pyramid form. This time, though, I'm going to have you write for the Chattanooga Times Free Press, because this actually happened in Tennessee. So I'll let you read the instructions. Here's the details, though, that coming from a police department report. Here we go. Car accident. Again, pretty commonplace. Car accidents, unfortunately, happen pretty frequently. This time, though, okay, this 18-year-old woman died in her Jeep Cherokee when a driver of a van sideswiped her. And so she was flipped upside down in her Jeep, and she was suspended because of the seatbelt. And then once rescue workers got there, they did extract her from the wreckage. They got her to the hospital, but she died from internal bleeding as a result of the impact caused from the accident. There's some additional information here. I'll let you decide, if you want to use it or not. And then there was a woman who had been a witness to this accident. And this is where the picture comes in. I'll show you that in a minute. And this picture actually got an award with the National Press Photography Association a couple years ago. That opens a whole nother door, ethical conversation about whether or not we should be receiving awards and hardware, monetary prizes for other people's suffering. But for now, I'll leave that where it is. This is a quote from her, so you're going to have to decide what you do with it as well. You know the drill by now with these types of stories, so I'm going to leave that alone. The picture is here. So what you're going to need to do, I guess I shouldn't have closed that because my instructions are in here, but I want you, beyond writing the story, the actual story itself, in addition to the story, you have to write a one-page double-spaced argument that justifies your decision to either use or withhold the picture of the fatal car accident. So if you are going to use it, I want you to include news values in your justification to rationalize that decision. So I should be seeing things, that we've been talking about in our news discussions about why it would be newsworthy to include that pic. If you're going to withhold it, okay, then that's fine, but I want, again, a convincing argument. In this case, you can take previous news events where content was edited or omitted, or, in your opinion, it should have been edited or omitted as you formulate that argument. So what you're going to give me then on Thursday would be two documents. You're going to give me the story, and you're going to bring a separate doc that has your justification for this picture. So let's take a look at this picture. There it is. Get a little bit larger. So this is Wendy right here. You can kind of see Ashley's hair. There's blood. That looks like it was the visor. A lot of glass. But this was the image. This was the actual image that I told you about a moment ago. And so I want to see what you would do here, because you know she died. Is that the image, the first and maybe last image you want to have of her? I don't know. On the other hand, this is a compelling image. No doubt about it. So, not really sure what you want to do here, and that's kind of why this assignment. So, anyway, there's the picture. You can look at it all you want. It's linked, but this is going to be due October 1st. So I'll collect that. That'll probably be one of the first things we do before we get to the interview with Tom. And don't forget, too, you have this end-of-term strategy business that we talked about. That's going to be due here in about a month's time. So you might give that its due consideration. All right, so let's get to the in-class assignment for today. What are you doing? Yeah, midterm review. All right, so you're going to do this in class as soon as this video ends. And you'll submit it as a Word document in Blackboard. And so I've told you, you got leads. Now, hopefully you read what you were supposed to read over the weekend, and hopefully you were paying attention in what we discussed in class last Thursday. Because what I've done is given you a lead here, and I've asked you a couple questions about types, what you might do differently, where's the nut graph. Some of this terminology should make sense to you at this point. Same thing here. Different example, same kind of questions though. Then I give you an entire story related to inverted pyramid, and I want you to answer those questions related to it. We've got a section on quotations and paraphrases, and then finally a little bit more on AP style and mechanics, just checking you on that. Now, as far as I'm concerned, and Samantha is there to reinforce this, I'm fine if you want to use your style book. Absolutely, use it. You should use it. I'm fine if you want to use your notes that you took in class last Thursday. If you want to consult some of the literature that I've uploaded into Blackboard, that's fine too. The only thing that I ask is that you do this in-class assignment individually. I want to make sure that you know what the hell you're talking about and not your neighbor. So individually, please, is my only expectation. And then as far as I'm concerned, with whatever time is left, that's what you have until 12:15 when class officially ends to submit this. And then Samantha, as I sign off on this video, if you could make sure everyone has submitted by 12:15, that would be fantastic. And then kind of just push the envelope if we're getting close to that time. Otherwise, I think you know now what you're doing for today, what you're doing between now and Thursday, and then what we're doing on Thursday. So you should be prepped and ready to go, but if there are questions, give me a holler, send me an email, and I'll be happy to clarify any points of confusion. Good luck!